Welcome to Talks with Summer, seeing the world through the eyes of another. Today I have with me Naurya Pelletier-Bacquaert. Welcome, Naurya. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hello, Summer. It's nice to be with you today. I'm Naurya, as you said. I'm a French artist and photographer since 2018. Born and raised in north of France, in a worker's place, and in a big family. I have 11 siblings. I'm one of the oldest. I was raised during my childhood by my grandmother. We lived close to my parents' place. I love to be outside for playing with other children. It was my first occupation when I was a child, and I love to be without any adults around. Probably because like that, I can felt free to be and to do with no rules to respect. That sensation never leave me during all my life. And I'm looking for that in every places. You can imagine how it could be hard with the social code to do that. And that's why I prefer now to be outside and exploring my environment. I got that since I was a child. It was easier for me, as for many kids at that time, to know the path for returning to our place despite the distances from it. That's why we never stop to explore the place around our house. And like that, we didn't see the time passing, always. And I remember my mothers, my grandmas, they're looking for me. And despite the sunset, I didn't think to return to my family house. I would like to stay outside all the time. And if I was thinking about how I was really when I was young, I always curious and interested by everything. And particularly things from my immediate environment. That's why I explore a lot. And I guess it's because I hated the boring routine life imposed by adults and my parents. Is why I would like always to be outside, just for feeling free. And I was a little bit wild. I don't know if it's a good word. For me, to be wild was important. I remember my older sister was always, as people say, waiting from her to be. And me, I always be exciting, running, shouting, and everything like that. But I remember it wasn't quality for girls. And is what I remember from my childhood principally. And I remember how I care about my sibling. I help a lot my mother at my family house. And since I'm starting to help my mother, she asking to me to stay at home. And I don't want to do that. And I do everything is possible to help her quickly for being outside. And to go to join my friends and other kids.
Tell us a little bit about how it was like to have so many siblings. Was there ever any differentiation between your brothers and your sisters, or your brothers could do something and you could not do something? Was there ever an element like that when you were growing up?
We're lucky because my parents got daughters before to have a son. That's why they're waiting their fourth children to get one son. And that's why in first I didn't see any difference between my sisters and me. And for me, it was particular because I was raised by my grandmother. And I didn't sleep in my family house since I have 12. I was always with my grandmother. I live in her house, in her apartment. Her apartment was close to my parent place, and I back and forth from my grandmother place and my family place. In first, the contact with my sibling was strange. I got the distances between them and me because I don't feel really as a part of this family. But the feeling coming late when I decided to leave my grandmother's after her hunger, I said to her, I don't want to live anymore with you. And I will go now to my parents' house. And I will never change my mind. But I regret it so much. But I continuing to accept my decisions, to continuing to live with my family house and my sibling. And at that moment, I become too close to them. This is a strange situation, but it's like that. And for being close to my sibling, because they are younger than me, I care of them. I help them for their homeworks, to give them the snacks when they come from the school, or, I play really a big role as the oldest children in a big family. I was always concerned about my sibling, always, and particularly the youngest.
Is there any incident which you would like to share which shaped your life?
The first incident, very important for me, it was a trauma. It was like that for every children. In past, adults abused and mistreat children. It was common in any places in Europe, and particularly in France, and it was like that. Parents, teacher, every people care children was like that. When you are a child, you have nothing to tell, and they abuse of you. They are very hard. They can, when I said abuse and mistreated, is because it was normal for them to give punishment.
It was similar when I grew up. I went to an all girls convent and it was very strict, and it was common for the teachers to give you a slap or use a ruler and hit your hand. So it was very common at that time.
Sometimes the abuse was very hard for children. And if I remember the most bad incident, because you're talking about incidents, it was that one. It's the first one I experienced. I was only 4 years old and I was at school. I was punished by adults because I shouted. As I said to you, I love that. As an adult, I love to talk, and sometimes I have the very big voice. Some people, they can thinking is an aggression, but it's not. It's because it was like that. I got that because I come from the big family, and for talking, you have no choice. You have to talking much loud than others. It's like that. At what moment they would like to force me to stop because they would like to catch me, I ran away from them. And I ran away everywhere in the school. And at one moment, I remember that they catch me. There were 3 or 4 adults, they catch me, and they put me in a room alone during a full afternoon. They tied me to a chair. Can you imagine? And tied my hands and put tape over my mouth. It was intense, and I can feel it now too, how it was intense for me, because as a child, you cannot understand what's going on really, because your brain is is brain of child. You have no way for escape of that situation. You just shocked, don't know what's going on. That image about me in that room is always in my mind, because I don't know how to describe that, but I always saw me on under me around. I don't know it's like that. I don't see the feeling, because it was uncomfortable, as you know. It was.
Did you not tell your parents or your grandmother when you went back home that day?
If I remember that, my parents, my grandmother never knew that. I wasn't able to tell them because I have fourth. You have not enough words for explain what you endured or what you live at that moment. Maybe my behavior changed, but they don't know why, for example. But I wasn't able, I was just 4 years old, and I wasn't able to tell them. It's just because it's coming and it's coming. That's why I get it in my memories. But I never talk about it to my parents. Never. Despite I become an adult. After that, sometimes with some of my siblings, we talk about that. How adults were abused of children and mistreat them. And one day, at my work, French Ministry of Justice, and at one moment, I met a lawyer, and we discussed each other, and she said to me, she lived exactly the same thing as I lived. She was, at that moment, I noticed how it was common to do that to children. I never met someone before her talking to me about her trauma and she experimented as a child. I was thinking about that a long time in my life, and I thought it was because of my appearance, my brown skin, my roots coming from north of Africa. My grandmother and my mother are Berber, my father too, but they don't come from the same places. In that period, in 60, before 70s, children's coming from parents born in Algeria, the long story of the war coming with them. And that's why it was easy for them to have a misconduct with them. I remember that woman, despite she was white and blonde, she said, my parents coming from Algeria, because at that moment, there's a mix of people. There is indigenous is autochthon, as my parents, and there is people coming from France or other countries from Europe. She was born in Algeria, and because, as me, she remembered people the war, they do exactly the same behavior to her, the abuse to her. And I was very surprised, because I expect it's coming to me because of my color of skin, but not coming to me because of the history of the war.
Yes.
It was a trauma for people, and they would like to show you how you are guilty for that. But you are a child.
I know, but what does a 4-year-old child know?
You cannot wear the guilty of the war on your shoulders.
You don't even know what war means when you're 4 years old.
Yes, I didn't know it. I didn't know it coming, and I identified clearly, starting to become an adult, and I starting to be interested about the history. When I study at school history, I started to understand, but I didn't fully understand, because The trauma, it is. You cannot cancel that. You cannot do something for disappear that situation and that memories.
Yes, it's very difficult.
Yes, it's difficult, and it's difficult. That's why I'm interested about the trauma to other people, because we cannot treat people and put on them shoulders the problem of the life, the problem of the war, the problem of the injustice of the life. That's why, for me, I have deeply a hunger for adults, because I said, if children don't understand, it's natural, okay, but to get power from children and to misconduct with them, to abuse of them, is for me a very bad behavior, because it's not a gift, is you push them to wear something they are not responsible.
Yes, they become someone else. Thank you for sharing this.
No, that's why I remember that particularly that moment, because it was the one of the bad moments. The first one I remember. Of course, during the life, everyone have lived many bad situations, bad events. But when you are a child, you have no arm. You are not armed.
Yes, you're very innocent. Yes.
Yes,
You're exposed and you're innocent.
You are exposed, yes. Totally.
You're a dear friend, and I didn't know this at all. We've never talked about this.
Yes, because as you know, it's difficult for me to explain myself in English, and that's why sometimes it's difficult for me. It's not my own language, but it's easy for me now to talk about that to any adults and to tell them how some adults could have a bad behavior, and we cannot really accept that.
Yes.
You can understand.
I totally understand.
But it doesn't mean
yes.
If you understand, you accept that.
Yes.
And me, I never accepted what they did to me. Never, and never. And that's why my brain, I have a deep hunger. And for me, it's very important to be sure people that are clear with me and they are sincere with me for being well with them. And I am well in general like that with people, but to be very close to people, I do a selection,
I know.
You understand
yes.
what I said? Because I dislike the fighting,
yes.
but I know how to fight because I was a large part of my life during my childhood outside.
Yes.
And when you live outside, you know how to fight. You cannot let people... but with other child, it's easy. But with adults, when you are a child, it's not easy. You cannot want.
What is something which is very close to your heart, or what is something you're passionate about?
I just would like to tell something more about the question we talk about it, because, when I said during the period, during my childhood, it was common to have a bad behavior with children and to abuse. But because, as you remember, the psychology part for education coming in 70. For a large part of the family and for many, many parents, they don't really know how to raise children, because for them it's just to don't do that, and to be very hard with them. The talking, well, you don't talk with any children. Before the introduction of the psychology, children research, and the education change. And I can know that. Why? Because I notice how my parents and teachers, they change with my sibling, and how life changed to them. Despite of, as you know, a sibling, they can fighting together, sometimes. But despite that, for them, they didn't experience that one too much. They did, of course, because life is like that. With other children, probably, and with some bad adults, it could be. But it wasn't a rules. But in past, it was a rules to abuse and mistreated children. Because people are thinking and parents are thinking, you deserve it. And that's why research of the children psychology bring many, many things.
Yes, but I don't know if are things different now. We human beings are still the same human beings. So I wonder if things are different or they're just different on the outside because everything is so out in the open and behind closed doors. We don't know what's happening.
Yes, that's right. I said always that behind the doors, we don't know, behind the closed door, we don't know how people they are. But I hope it is talking so much about during the COVID, for example, on the newspaper, they're talking so much about mistreated children.
Yes.
By parents, because parents, they have no habit to be with their children all the days. And I know the frustration of parents and the anger of parents.
Yes.
Children they become guilty and they have to wear on their shoulders.
I think it's the unfulfillment of the parents which comes out as frustration on children. And children are innocent, they don't know.
Yes, and unfortunately, to protect really children from that, I guess is very difficult.
Yes, it's difficult. Unless parents actively decide that they are healed enough to have children. That's always been my belief, that human beings should first be healed enough in themselves before they decide to have children.
That's right.
Before they decide to be responsible for another living being.
Some people, they do a path for change before to have children. To do a path and thinking about that is the most important thing. And we cannot know before to have a children if our behavior can help them or not. But to avoid the mistreated and the abuse is important. We cannot avoid everything because sometimes you think is the good way for my children or for my child. And one day they said to you, I wasn't agreed and you forced me to do something or you abused of me in that situation, and I remember that. But we try to do our best. And if parents try to do their best, something can really change.
So that's the whole aim of this, to know the real story and how you feel and how you think. And I'm happy that you shared this because I feel closer to you.
Thank you so much. Because, for me, if adult mistreat other adults, okay, adults can find a way for protect themselves. But doing that to children, for me, a big misconduct.
Yes.
To me, because those children will become adults, and maybe they will reproduce what they leave to others if they have the capacity, the ability to thinking and to change.
Yes. I completely agree with you.
That's why we adults have more responsibilities.
Yes, the cycle continues
than children.
Yes,
and first.
What is something which is very close to your heart, or what is something you're passionate about?
And first, about the mystery of life in general. That's why I'm interested about life. I try through photography and art to show what is intangible. For me, is what remains in us once I have felt something with what is alive around us. It's just encounters of life is always something surprising, but sweet, intense, or something like that. And for me, to show what is intangible is your link with the life, with your environment. And I don't know if it's explained correctly. But with that, this with intangible part of the life, difficult to catch. I want to get the beauty of that intangible part of the life, because it's the only thing is there inside us, and he gives you an identity. He gives you something, despite this intangible, something tangible, because you experience it and you integrate it inside you. And it could be change you or not, but is what I'm passionate of. And that's why I'm interested about the intuition, the conscientiousness. Because of that, then the spirituality and the art. Because for me, and I always interested about that, is how we are able to have an imagination and to create. Despite the world try to stop
to curb
your
it.
imagination, your ability to create, to imagine, that way we cannot avoid it. This is why I'm passionate. The mystery of life in general. Why? Because we have no keys. We try to find the keys. We try to find what's going on. We call life light or brave or something like that. But is always strange. It's strange. If you're thinking life is strange, because and always people they say to you, your life don't forget, you will dying, and at the moment who you live, you don't thinking about dying.
Yes.
You just emotions or something like that. You can be aware of that and sometimes not, because you don't decide to be aware about what's going on, what happens at the moment who you are in the environment or something like that. Sometimes you get time to realize what you live at the moment. But if you took pictures of something, you can return on it and remember what you catch at that moment, and what you capture and what it means to you. If you would like to know, I'm passionate by the absolute.
Okay.
But it's intangible, the absolute.
Thank you. I'm also interested in that, and my art has a similar philosophy behind it, so I completely connect to what you're saying.
Thank you so much. Yes, I know this is a part of your link with the life. How you are in the life.
Yes.
What you appreciate in life and in a person.
Who has been the most influential person in your life, and how have they impacted you?
If I would like to talk about the person, is my grandmother. Why? Because for her spirituality and for her love of children. Because my grandmother loved. And if I have a regret, I didn't care a lot, and because I was young. And I know she had a very hard life, and she know how life is fragile. She experienced the war as a victim, and she knew that life can disappear in one fell swoop. And in past, at the end of the 18th and at the beginning, children continue to die after they're born. Okay? And we do a lot of improvement with the health for trying to help children to stay in life when they are babies. But in the past, it wasn't like that. My grandmother, and I guess why she loved so much children, is because she experienced a lot of death of her children when they are babies. She lost 4 children during her life. That's why I guess she was so concerned about children. And she gave me that feeling, and that's why I'm concerned in my life. And it coming from her spirituality first, I guess. My grandmother doesn't know writing, reading, you know. She's just do prayers and care of her family, and that's all, you know. She had a simple life. But yes, if I have to choose one.
Is there any advice you would give your younger self looking back at life now?
If I have something short to tell, take care of yourself first, to be always you and only you, and refuse to let anyone take away your right to the free life you deserve. That's all.
Okay.
It's only my advice. But people, they can understand that advice as they want, you know.
Yes.
But for me, you know, the spirituality is to be yourself. And to be yourself, you need to accept all your emotions, despite they are bad. You have to let them living. It's difficult, particularly for women, to do that, because in a society, you cannot really. That's why it's difficult really to be ourselves.
Yes.
And the most important thing is to find a way and to care of yourself. Not to try to be kind just for being kind and to get love, or to change your mind to avoid conflict or something like that. You can have a conflict. It doesn't mean you would like to do a fight or war. You know, you just would like to discuss and debate and tell your opinion, your point of view. You know, that's all. And trying to let behind you the ideology, the wrong belief, and to stay sincere as much as possible.
What do you feel the purpose of life is for you? Or in other words, what do you feel is your personal quest in life?
Because of the spirituality of coming from my grandmother, I cannot think that the life could be only in purpose to me. And I coming from a big family.
Okay.
You cannot thinking something like that. Despite people, they are sure thinking that. When you are young, you're thinking that a lot because you are focused on you. You say, "Oh, this is for me. This is for me. This is for me. Only for me." But quickly, if you are in a big family, you realize it's not. Because sometimes parents, they said to you, you have to sacrifice you almost for helping your sister and your brothers. Not to sacrifice totally you, but because you have to share. Sometimes it could be a peer for you, a sacrifice.
Yes.
That's why I don't think there is a life could be only in purpose to me. And as I said to you, I was raised by my grandmother. She was a powerful woman. For her, humility means something important. Why? Because my grandmother followed Muslim rules, because she's Muslim. When you follow with sincerity your religions, it could be whatever. You have to got humility, to stay humble. And I learned that from her. For me, it's difficult to be really humble. But always I said, I born in a humble family. I'm humble. I don't need to prove how much I'm humble. And this is my limit, because humility doesn't mean you have no existence and you have to let others living and you stay on the side.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that.
Yes.
Okay. And that's why, for me, humility of life, of course.
Is there any book, quote, or philosophy that has shaped your outlook on life?
When I was young, I loved to read, really. I read many books, and it was very funny for me. It was nice for escape, you know, to living others' adventure.
Yes.
Pour vivre d'autres aventures. If I remember and if I touch my thought and my behavior, it was with the prophet of Khalil Gibran, the prophet.
Yes.
I know you know it. The Confessions of Saint Augustine, one of the most thinker and doctor of the most important thinker and doctor of the Christian religions. He was born and raised in North of Africa. And as you know, my parents coming from North of Africa. And the history of religion in North of Africa is long. And that's why religion doesn't give you an identity. Religion is just a way to choose for living, but
Yes.
it didn't give you an identity.
Yes.
And that's why in my ancestry they had Jewish, Christians, Muslim, and animists too. That's why there's two books was important to me, because there's people they talking in Confessions, for example. Saint Augustine is so sincere and try to be the best person he could be, and to talking about everything he feeling so, and his singing is their sort of thing was bad. He talking to God, you know, to be much better as he is, and to respect his belief of God and, of course, the religion. And that's why Confession was a very nice book for me. And the prophet is poetic and is the same, is a path. And Khalil Gibran coming from is Lebanese. That's why there's both authors was interested to me.
Okay.
And I read that book, and I appreciate a lot. It was, and particularly for Confession, it was incredible for me to see how people they can be naked with themselves. Because Confession of Saint Augustine, he tried to be naked totally, you know, to be transparent totally, to be sincere totally. And for me, that exercise requests from you strong strength and strong mind to expose yourself like that.
Yes.
I don't know if you know that book.
I don't know the Confessions.
I recommend it
Yes.
to you.
I'm curious now, though.
Yes. Okay.
If it were a perfect world, what does that look like in your eyes?
The perfect world for me, it could be to let people have an access to essentials for living without having to suffer for that. Because for me, the essential foods, or to have a place to stay, or to have access to the healthcare or something like that, the commune or education, to put the parents in the bad situation and to let them suffer to have got that for themselves and for children, particularly for children, is not accepted. It couldn't be accepted by me. That's why, in first, to let people to have an access to the essential for living without fighting for that and suffer for that. Real freedom to choose, real freedom to be to anyone, to get the respect without any restriction, judgments, or bad consequences, because you are yourself. I don't know if it could be or not, but I know to get that is difficult. To obtain that is difficult.
Yes. What is something that you would like the world to know about you, which you feel is often misunderstood?
I don't know really, because for me, unfortunately, the life is only a big misunderstanding. Words cannot explain, and they are not enough.
Okay.
And sometimes there's misunderstanding.
Yes.
Sometimes you can do a mistake. You can be sure there is people that connected with you and they understand you, but sometimes it could be, but with a misunderstanding sometimes, and that's why it's the only thing I can tell.
Okay. From your entire journey in life so far, what would you like to share with our listeners, which you feel would be helpful to them?
To offer advice from my life, or event experience I live, is difficult because I remember when I was young, people they try to give me away or to tell me something, but they don't really care. They just would like to talking and to tell something, and that's why if you care of yourself and if you focus really of your needs, you will find a way by yourself to get it. And of course, I know in that world who to have access to everything, you have to have good money. To be free, unfortunately you have to have enough money. Try to find a way for avoid suffering to get something, and do your best for care of you and the most important people close to you. And why not, if you are confident and if you get that at that moment, to share with others, to give to others, to it depends your personality, but to give an absolute advice is very difficult, because for doing improvement, my advice, if I thinking about what I live, if I got the key, particularly for the real life, for how to do, for finding the best way for obtain something, for reach my goal, it will be nice. But unfortunately, I have no that kind of key to understand the organization of life, how life really works, and why you can feel you are not on the same step of the others, is because he miss you something. And if he miss you something, do your best for going to reach out to get that tools for doing much better, and to do improvement, and to protect yourself, to care of yourself, and to care much better of your life. And people, they have their own way. But I know for some of them, it could be harder, more than others. Life could be unfortunate, could be unfortunate or could be fortunate, but because it depends of where you come from, it depends where your education, it depends your access to important tools you need for doing your life. It depends of many things.
Thank you, Naurya, for becoming a part of my podcast and sharing your story so openly. It was wonderful to have you.
Yes, so it was nice for me to do that, and to sharing that. We didn't talk too much about art.
There'll be a next time.
Yes, it was nice. I hope people, they will understand me. It's always difficult to me to express myself in English.
Merci beaucoup. To know more about what I do and offer, visit my website, samroshni.com, or find me on Instagram at samroshni coaching. Thank you.